Hi, this is Dave, and this is the weekly market recap, closing out the week for Friday, November the 9th, 2012. So I didn't do a video last week, so the last video I did was back on about the 27th of October, so that's almost 2 weeks ago. So back at that time, we were looking at the market right around this area here. I believe it was this day right in and around here, and what we were looking at was talking about potential accumulation in there, and I wasn't expecting much downside from there. I was actually expecting a bounce back into resistance, and that's exactly what happened. So we were looking at this area as potential accumulation, a push back into, we were looking this trend line, the 21 exponential moving average, and the major resistance at 13,200. So 13,200 was the major resistance level that we were looking at, and these were potential areas that we could come back into, and then we would be looking for either a reversal or for it to the market to find resistance and then roll back over and break through these levels again and push lower. So we were looking at these potential levels here, these fib levels from this low to this high, right? We were looking at this potential level there, 50% retracement, which came in at 12,709, and a 61.8% retracement coming in at 12,500. Well, this was one of the scenarios we were talking about, and the breaking of this would probably lead to the testing of one or both of these levels. So this one is kind of played out. This has already been there, and this has already been and done. And you can see we tested it pretty close. We slipped through it a little bit, and then we came back up and we closed there on Friday, just above that 12,700 level we tested. So at this point in time, there's really not a lot of action. Let me just change the color of this pen as well. There's really not a lot of action here. Like, there's nothing really actionable at these levels. The moves have kind of been done. We've tested this level here at 13,200 in the Dow on the daily chart, and now what we're looking at is, I'm not sure at this point in time if we're gonna bounce again back into some resistance, or if we are going to just kind of dribble down or actually even slam down into this 12,500 major support level, which also coincides with the 61.8% retracement of this move, and also coincides with some of these these levels here that we've with the support line that we've had on our chart for quite a while there. So that seems to be a pretty significant level. We've already tested this level, so the question is, are we going to push down into this level and test it and hold and then bounce, or are we going to bounce from here, potentially find resistance somewhere where the 21 period exponential moving average meets, and then push back down? So let's just look at a couple of scenarios here. We've got, let me just draw a trend line here. We've kind of got two trend lines going here. So what I'd be looking at here would be a push into potentially this trend line here, back into this trend line, or back into that 21 exponential moving average. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Is some kind of either a move into here, or for it to just slam into here. Okay, so not quite sure what it's going to do from here. We'll have to see how the market opens up on Sunday night. The futures market opens up Sunday night after, I believe it's 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll have to see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like if we're going to hold these levels and push higher, or just slam into those levels. It's kind of hard to tell at this point in time. We had some significant volume coming in here with the break of these lows here on this day. So not sure if we're going to get continued downside, but it's not uncommon when we have a situation like this to come down and test that. So I'm looking at this point in time 12,500 and the Dow Futures as the major support. If we take a look at the S&P futures now, you've got the same sort of scenario taking place here, where you've got this kind of trend line here. You've got the difference being these are actually backwards, but this would be the 50%, and this would be the 61.8. So this would be the 50. Let's see, the 50, and this would be the 61.8, and that is some terrible writing. So essentially, the S&P looks a little bit stronger than the Dow. So I would expect, at this point in time, some sort of a test, of this kind of zone. And if we take a look at the Nasdaq futures, let's take a look and see what that's doing. Okay, so now we're looking at the Nasdaq futures. The Nasdaq futures are actually the weakest. So it looks like the S&P seems to be the strongest, followed by the Dow, and then the Nasdaq seems to be the weakest. Now the Nasdaq has already kind of come down here, broken through the 50%, and it's just kind of broken through the 61.8, but it hasn't really run away from it. So it's not uncommon to see it find support there and then push back into some kind of falling resistance here. But it is interesting to note that we are below the 61.8% retracement of this major move from this low to this high up here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in and around here. I wouldn't really be expecting a lot of downside. In this situation, I'd be kind of looking for a bounce at that, at this point. But it is interesting to note that we've totally lost momentum in my trending indicator. Volume is picking up, and you can see a little bit of red. You can see a little bit of red coming in here in the trending indicator. So that looks quite negative. But the question is, are we gonna, we're gonna hold this and push up, or are we gonna, just kind of, come crashing down? I would tend to think that we would have a little bit of a bounce from here, but anything's possible in these markets. Okay, so I want to take a look at the U.S. dollar index. So this is a really interesting thing that we were talking about, I guess, back in the video 2 weeks ago. And essentially what I was talking about is that this area here looked like a complex bottom here, where you had, it looked like you were starting to kind of build, a base here with a complex bottom, and we wanted to see if we could get through some of these resistance levels. And essentially what happened was, you can see, you had the 8-period moving average, which is this yellow line, cross above the 21 exponential moving average, which is this white line. So you had an 8 cross above the 21 exponential moving average. So there's a sign of a reversal right there. And this is something that we were talking about in the video a couple weeks ago. You can see we pushed above these resistance levels, and you can see now we're starting to trend higher, and it's starting to look actually quite strong, where you had this accumulation above the 8-period moving average, where it came down and tested it, and then it pushed back off. So where could the dollar index go from here? Well, let's look at it from the fib perspective. So this is no surprise. I mean, we did have a lot of downside in the dollar index, and now it looks like we're due for a bounce. So if we look at a 50% retracement would take us to 81.34, and a 61.8 would take us to 82. Do I think those levels are achievable? Yeah, definitely. I mean, that would be a normal retracement with this kind of move. So we might see some kind of a pullback first, or we might just see a push right into some of these levels, somewhere into this zone. So what that means, is essentially some downside for the euro. So let's take a look at the inverse. If I could figure out the symbol here, so at EC. So here are the euro futures. So if we look at the euro futures, it's the exact opposite. We broke this downtrend line here, and this was something that we talked about going back 2 weeks ago, where we weren't interested in buying this pullback here because we were below the key $1.30 level, and because we failed to put in a higher high here. You can see here was a higher high, and then we pushed back up, and we failed to put in a higher high, and in fact we put in a lower high, and then we came back down into support in and around this area. That's not really an area where you really want to buy, trend line or other support because of this this situation here. And then you could see you were losing momentum in the trending indicator. So now what's happened is you've pushed into some of these levels that we've had on the chart here, some of these levels in here. If you can't see these levels, what you can do is expand out the video, and you can change the quality to 1080p, so that you can see all of this detail in here, for those that aren't aware that that functionality exists. So let's take a look at where the retracements come in here. This is looking a little bit more bearish than bullish. So what you've had here is, let's take a look at a couple of different scenarios. So we've got this high to this low, and you can see here we cleared the 61.8% retracement initially, and then we came back down through it. But I think the key levels in play here, let's take a look at this retracement here. How do I remove this? Remove. Okay. So let's take a look at this this retracement from this minor low rather, to this high right in around there, and you can see we have a potential Fibonacci support zone coming in, which coincides with some of these levels in and around here. So the support levels, we could see this. Oops. We could see this kind of come into the 50% retracement at around $1.26, and then the 61.8% retracement at about $1.2485, $1.25 even. So that would coincide with some of these swing points and some of this congestion. Do I think that's possible? Yeah, I think that's possible. I mean, given these factors here and given what the dollar index looks like it's wanting to do, these areas probably would be like a magnet, where it's already kind of come down here and it's like, okay, we've already kind of made this move. Now we just have to come down and test some of these levels. Just like the inverse with the dollar index, it's like it's already pushed higher. It's probably just got to test some of those levels. So am I expecting a lot of downside from there? Honestly, I wouldn't really hazard a guess. But what I would do is I think the easy move would be either have a little bounce here and a push down to there, something like that kind of scenario, or just one of these scenarios where maybe we just kind of collapse into those levels depending on what news announcements might be coming out next week. So that's I think that's possibly realistic after if and when we test this zone in the inverse on the US dollar index. I'm not really sure if we're going to find support there and push higher. I wouldn't really hazard a guess. So that's all I have for this week. I hope that this video helps. Just a quick reminder, this video is for educational purposes only, and I hope that looking at the markets from this perspective kind of helps give a little bit of clarity to some of the and complement some of the analysis that you all might be looking at out there. So I hope this helps. Have a great rest of weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you at an upcoming meeting or at the next video. Be well, good trading, and take care.